This lesson is designed to help you write a detailed paragraph. In order to participate in this lesson, you're going to need to make sure that you have the notes that you wrote about volcanoes. You also will have needed to see at least one video and have those notes with you as well. If you've got all those, awesome! Continue. If you don't, stop the video and come back when you do. Our focus is on having a middle of our essay that is not boring, because we've seen those movies or books that go on and on and on, and there just seems to be no point. Yuck. That's how this teacher is feeling grading this mountain of essays. But there is a quick trick to writing some interesting detailed paragraphs. Now, you may have already thought of the big ideas that go around the controlling idea, but let's review what that might look like. When we talk about controlling idea, we're talking about what you have to write about. And if you go back to your prompt, you're writing about volcanoes because you are now a volcano expert. So if you think about the book that you've read chapters 1, 2, and 3, my big ideas are going to be about how those volcanoes are formed, because I know that that was chapter 1. Chapter 2 is about how they change the land. And chapter 3 is about how we learn about volcanoes, or how scientists learn about volcanoes would probably be better. These are my big ideas: how they're formed, how they change the land, and how scientists learn about them. But in order for me to be able to really use these big ideas, you'll notice that I'm kind of creating a graphic organizer as I'm talking to you. I know you've watched 2 videos, or maybe 1 video. I watched the Bill Nye video, and I know he changed the land, or he didn't change it himself, but he talked about changing it about Mount St. Helens. And he used a great quote that I learned: "They all build up the Earth's surface," or "Mount St. Helens changed the land quickly when it erupted." Oh, that one would be perfect. So I'm going to use the Bill Nye quote here. And I know that after reading the text that they talked about how the hard for me to even say now, pyroclastic flow, that one was a fun one to learn about. It was like a snow avalanche. So now I think that together I'm going to model how to write this paragraph, because I've got 2 great text references, I've got my big idea, and I'm ready to go. A good idea is to start with a sentence for your main idea detail paragraph that includes your big idea connected to your controlling idea. So we know that in the graphic organizer that I was using, my big idea that I'm focusing on is how volcanoes change the land. That's the big picture of how I've learned about volcanoes. My controlling idea is I'm a volcano expert. So when I put these together, I could use something like this. Changing the land is so important when you're learning about volcanoes. Or I could use my controlling idea here. Volcanoes also change the land. I could use my controlling idea here. Volcanoes are so important to the land. We have to keep in mind that our controlling idea is the main subject we're writing about. We're volcano experts. So pause the video, choose one of these, and write it down. Now this is what I want you to think about. Sentences have to include text references. What you need to make sure you do is you think about being specific with the reference to the text and why that reference is important. You need to make sure that the reason the reference is important, it can come before or it can come after the reference, but you do need to be specific about where you found this information. So let's do the paragraph together. Let's try one together. I know that I want to cite the Bill Nye video because I wrote down in my notes that Mount St. Helens changed the land quickly when it erupted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that that's what I focus in on. So as I look at this, I'm going to start off with, after watching the Bill Nye video, I learned that Mount St. Helens changed the land quickly. Now, I need to go back and make sure I include why that is important. So, I'm going to include that those changes seemed to make the land very different. Now you'll notice that I made sure to include a detail here, the land very different, because that's the focus of my paragraph, changing the land. Pause the video and write down this sentence. Now, after looking at this sentence for a little while, I want you to reflect on the pattern here. Here I have where I got the information. Here I have almost a quote from the video, but not quite exactly. It's what I learned. But I cited where I got that information from. This part of my sentence told me why, or told my readers why I included that information. This is only one of the detail sentences that I need. I need another one. So now I know I have to have two. So I'm going to include the information, and I got it from page 27 in my book, The Anatomy of a Volcano. And I liked the one about the pyroclastic flow. I picked that because I really thought it was the most dangerous, and I can't even imagine having any kind of debris travel more than 60 miles per hour and cover anything in its path with a thick layer of sizzling debris. That does not sound like anything I want to experience. So I'm going to use this one in my next sentence. And so I'm just going to cite that afterwards. And I'm going to say a pyroclastic flow changes the land quickly as it, and now I'm going to quote it, as it can travel more than 60 miles per hour and cover everything in its path. Now what I did here, and let's take a look at it. For this one, I defined what it was. I explain why I included it. It changes the land. And then I quoted from the text. What I want you to think about is, after you pause the video and write this down, how we can summarize. Pause the video. So now it's time to summarize. We're going to rephrase the big idea in a new way and connect with the transition. Here are some options for you. Change to the land is really important to learning about volcanoes. Notice I'm putting my big idea here. Change the land is really important to volcanoes. How volcanoes change land cannot be forgotten. No one wants to forget about how quickly the land can change. I want you to pick one of these and write it down as your conclusion for your paragraph. Pause the video. There's some things I want you to remember after watching the video. Each detail needs to include that main idea sentence with the big idea. 2 supporting details that contain a specific text reference and, of course, why those details connect to the big idea. A good paragraph really needs a conclusion sentence. Now, as you're writing yours, we did one together, but you need at least 2 detailed paragraphs, at least, and an introduction and a conclusion paragraph for your paper in order for it to be an essay. You can always write more, but definitely not less. So now I want you to get excited, get those detailed paragraphs going. Good luck.
Good luck.